My
That'd
only rebuttal is
luck.
have we heard of Scott Foster?
Hey,
NBA maybe look into that guy.
Well, after what was his name?
I
Tim
think he's just
Donaghy.
bad.
Like after Tim Donaghy or what I might be pronouncing his name wrong, but after him, I was just like, yeah, no, I don't trust NBA refs for anything at this point. I don't trust any referees.
I think Scott Foster's just bad.
Scott Foster just
I
really
mean-
has it out for Chris Paul. That's all it is. It's not necessarily. I don't think he's terrible. Like he's not great, but I don't think he's terrible.
I don't know. I don't know that you get the nickname the Extender without some shitty stuff going on.
No. I agree, but I mean there are levels to terrible here with refereeing, and I mean like,
That was
well,
like-
he may not. I don't think he's like the worst of the worst, but he's certainly like up there. But when it
That's
comes
like
to
that-
Chris Paul, he's like, I'm buying that.
It's that video every NBA Finals where it's like Scott Foster's on the elimination game, and it's that video of him and Enter Sandman.
Yep.
And you're like, all right, bet on the team that's on the eliminating side because it's going to game 5 or game 6.
Guaranteed.
Hey man. Well, I say with that, a hearty F. Scott Foster. Let's get into it.
Whoa. F.
Welcome
Scott
back.
Fitzgerald.
Welcome. No, wrong. Not him. Not the national anthem, dude.
No, that's
Uh,
Francis
Wait
Scott
a
Key.
minute. Wait a minute.
Whatever. They're all the same.
All Francis's.
Anybody's name that starts with F, you've written the national anthem at least once in your life. Good work.
Thank God we're not one of them.
Wow.
And
You learn
that's
something
the
new
type
every
of stuff. That is this type of stuff you tune into
So-
the number one sports podcast here at the Sportsball Podcast. Again, number one sports podcast in the world. Do not fact check us. I am
No.
Zach, joined by Andy and Nate, and we are here to bring you your weekly, or well, it's been 2 weeks,
Almost
but
weekly.
mostly weekly updates on all things sports.
Weekly updates. Don't fact check us.
Yeah. Don't look
Hey,
at the timestamps of when these episodes come out either.
Don't worry about it. We're here. That's all that matters. We're here for the people. And I feel like we're gonna go completely out of order this time around, but we might as well start with the hot news in the NBA, which is obviously that tiny. Well, he's not tiny, sorry, but the small news of Luka going to the Lakers.
Dropped it
I
like
see what you did because his
10,
GM called
11
him fat.
Yeah. So I know
Well,
we've already
he did,
like
but he
discussed
didn't.
this. We've discussed this to death via text messages, but we just get to rehash it at this point. But
It's still
What's
mind
it-
blowing.
what's it like? I really want to know what it would be like to trade a generational talent player for peanuts.
Yep. Generational talent going into his prime for aging all-star and a rookie and a pick that won't matter because you traded the generational talent to the team you got the pick from.
And
He
like
sure
it's
did.
crazy. It's crazy because like Anthony Davis isn't like a terrible pickup, but the trade was absolutely awful. Like what? And like you look at the roster makeup of the Mavs, they did not need Anthony Davis. So it's like, what are you doing? And I would like to point out that we did try to get Nico on for an interview, but I need to reread his email. He said, "Who is this? Stop calling." So that
Wait,
did
you
not
called
work
him through
out.
Email?
My email's fancy.
Whoa. Okay.
well, sorry, I didn't follow the rest of that. It does say stuff about lawyers and stuff. So there were phone calls involved too. Don't worry about it, is what I'm saying. It's not a big.
That seems unimportant.
These are just details. they're unimportant details, but regardless, we had kind of speculated at one point that the trade deadline might bring something crazy in the NBA. It kind of brings something every once in a while. Not this. I don't think anybody expected this.
We expected we'll get to Jimmy Butler in a second. But I mean, we expected like him. We're still out on maybe KD being traded at some point. We'll give our predictions and our reactions to KD stays and no, he got traded. Just cover our bases on both ends in case one or the other happens after Thursday.
Here, I got that one covered. Kevin Durant may stay with the Suns or he may be traded. More to come next week.
Gasp.
Yeah.
Boom.
Hell gasp.
It's the hard-hitting analysis that you come to this podcast for. Come on.
Right. But I mean, we expected names like that, but not a guy that just took Dallas to the finals last year.
I'm pretty sure they were talking about, like, before the season started, that Luka was untouchable too. Like, I'm pretty sure that was reported somewhere.
And not only
Turns
did
out
he
that
get you to
was
the
a lie.
finals, but Dallas was like the 5 seed last year. I mean, they were not like one of the top, Western Conference teams, and that they made it to the finals. And they took Boston pretty. I mean, obviously Boston won, but I mean they handled Boston pretty well, and it's mind blowing that all jokes aside of like well, maybe not a joke, maybe they are actually concerned about his health and how maybe not underweight that he is. But probably the biggest outlier that we've seen is like they just probably didn't want to sign him to the Supermax this coming off season during the summer when Luka's eligible for it. Like rightfully so, he's gonna get it in LA now. But it's wild to me that you don't want to build a franchise long term with someone that has proven time and time again that he is very much an MVP type caliber player. Still very much in his prime at 25, what you said, Nate. And it's I can't imagine that. It's unless it happens to one of our teams here pretty soon. I don't know what that feeling would be like. And as much as maybe of all cities that happened to, Dallas is pretty funny actually. If you consider the state of the Cowboys franchise too.
This to me would have been like this. I feel like this would have been a lot more like if because Jimmy Butler, I feel like that was the biggest, like, wasn't necessarily shocking trade because it was
but
such
we
a
knew
big
it was
rumor.
going to happen.
Yeah, well, so Jimmy Butler officially, like, before we even started recording this, like 30 minutes ago now at this point, I think, went to the Warriors for a boatload
Also
of
funny.
people.
Also funny.
Also funny. But
which that
him potentially
trade,
going,
we now know Andrew Wiggins, and Andrew Wiggins is going to Miami. New details have come out now that Dennis Schroeder's going to Utah and Kyle Anderson's going to go to Toronto. So there are
How many teams are in this?
There are 4 teams involved.
The entire NBA?
Yes.
Okay, so that makes a lot more sense because the way it was first read, I read it as those players were all going to Miami, and I was like, how the hell?
And then like 20 minutes after Shams tweeted that, he added the other 2 teams that are part of that. So like a 4-team trade that'll now send Dennis Schroeder to Utah and Kyle Anderson to Toronto, Butler to Golden State, and then I guess Miami just gets a draft pick. I think so. That's how I'm reading that. Which is Miami's in sell mode, probably, if they're not going to take anything but a draft pick in return.
I mean, at that point, you have to be. But the Luka trade, going back to that real quick, because I feel like Jimmy Butler potentially going to the Suns was like the big hot goss.
Yes.
And again,
it
was pretty well reported that that's where he wanted to go. Well, yeah, that and that people were like, yes, this is going to happen. So even if it did happen and he went to Phoenix, people would be like, oh, there it is. Like it wasn't. Luka came out of left field, and like I've been trying to rack my brain like what this would be like, and I feel like using the Jimmy Butler trade as an example would be like trading Jimmy Butler, but then as a Suns fan, getting rid of Devin Booker. But even that feels not necessarily the same, just because I don't know. It just doesn't feel the same because Devin Booker hasn't been playing as well as he usually does. But I'm just like, what the hell?
Oh, we'll add more to that. The Jazz will now send PJ Tucker to Miami, take on Dennis Schroeder, and the Jazz will get a 2031 draft pick in return.
I did just see that the Kyle Anderson part of sending him to Toronto apparently fell through. So,
oh my God. Nothing matters.
Yeah.
Nothing mattered unless you were the literal star player in the trade.
Yep.
That is a guarantee.
I could be crazy here, but didn't like the Warriors and Steph come out like a week or 2 ago and be like, yeah, we don't want Jimmy. He'd be terrible for like the culture.
Well, the Warriors need to look inside and look at who their main culture problem is.
Might as well
And
just
it has medical
multiply and stack on
for
top
10
of it at this
medical
multiply and stack on
for
top
10
of it at
plus
this point.
years.
What exactly are you trying to say there, Andy?
Maybe the multiple game suspension that Draymond gets every single season is maybe, I don't know, a part of the problem.
Are
In the
you
words
trying?
of Patrick Starr, ooh, I like kicking.
I'm
Can't
just
punch aim.
envisioning. I'm envisioning Draymond in a hot dog costume. We're all trying to find the guy who did this.
So yeah, nothing matters in trades anymore, I guess.
I will say, because you guys had asked me about this before we were recording, but I think I finally figured out my answer. Because Jimmy Butler did not go to the Suns. Now that
Oh.
means Kevin Durant stays on the Suns and Bradley Beal stays on the
Well,
Suns because there's
wow.
no trade clause and all that jazz. Fun. Looks to me like the team's going to just kind of ride out what they can and blow it up. Whether that's this upcoming off season or next year or whatever, but I'm fine with that. I mean, the rest of this year's probably a wash at this point because they've been playing like garbage. But it is what it is. Not every year can be the year, and I just wish they could get back to the finals like they did a few years ago, but that would be asking a bit too much with the roster setup.
Yeah, and obviously, Devin and KD are still great basketball players. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It's, you're starting to push the age limit of KD a little bit, and Book is still young, but it's outside of those two, Zach. It's just like, who are your next best supporting cast?
I don't think Bradley Beal is terrible either. I don't think he's the correct fit for what Bud wants to run. But I don't know if that means because a lot of the problems with Bradley Beal is just his contract are not great.
Right.
Especially because they're using him as a six man, essentially the first guy off the bench, which on paper doesn't sound bad. Well, sorry, in practice doesn't sound bad. On paper, though, when you're paying that much to him, he needs to be more, you got to get basically your money's worth out of him. But maybe I overthink these things where it's like, if they're winning the games by doing these things, who cares?
Right.
But that's the other thing. They're not winning the games. They just lost to Portland here a couple days ago. So Portland famously having DeAndre Ayton. So
Portland's on not literally a trailblazer of games right now, where they've won, I think, 7 out of their last 8, and that one lone loss is to the Thunder. Outside of that, I mean, they have seemingly come out of nowhere.
That's great.
We also forgot, speaking of Shams tweeting more, Chicago signed Lonzo Ball to a 2-year, $20 million deal. But I forgot they did trade Zach LaVine yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yep.
Back to Sacramento, so he and DeMar link up again. And then we forgot De'Aaron Fox going to Wemby. So the Spurs now look pretty legit to maybe a little late in the season to make up. Well, you got De'Aaron.
They'll be better, but in the future they'll be better. But
well, yeah, not this season. I'm not saying this season. This is a future thing. Like we said, 33 games left. A little hard to make a run when you're near the bottom of the standings.
Yeah.
But
They'll be more dangerous and annoying to teams like Phoenix and Minnesota who are in that play-in
fighting for a
area,
spot.
and you're fighting to stay at a 7 or the 8 seed to play Oklahoma City first round. But
I was gonna say, as Nate so famously puts it, keeping it unserious. Honestly, though, it really it's funny because all these other trades that have happened, they haven't been they haven't all been blockbuster ones, but they've been good ones to talk about. But then you have Luka that comes in and not Luka, but Nico that comes in and just decides to smash everybody's head in with a bat over this ridiculous trade, and nothing else seems to at that point. Everybody's like, okay, well, I guess we could have just cheated.
It's just it's wild that I don't know. I'm still mind blown about how you could try to trade a face of a franchise for nothing in return at this rate.
Not only
It's
that,
not it's not like you're getting, multiple future draft picks. I mean, they got one draft pick and an aging, like Nate said, all-star at center.
I mean, like,
And I'm sure there would have been plenty of teams that would have said, "Here, take our draft picks for Luka. Like, we're fine. We get Luka in return."
big Rudy fan here, but like we traded 4 first-round picks for Rudy, and Dallas got 1.
I remember when we
Luka.
were shocked as hell when Minnesota traded away Cat. And it was just like, and they had just gotten, I don't remember how far they got, but they had gotten pretty far in the playoffs. And we were all like, yeah, like it would make sense as if they could. I didn't know the logistics of the team at that point or anything, but like I remember even saying like they should try to run it back as best as they can, trade what they have to stay in the cap and all that. And I'm guessing that's why they had to trade him. But
yeah, the Wolves at least had a financial justification for it because Cat's salary the next few years is gonna balloon. But like,
right, so like, but even then, like that was I felt like a surprising trade. But then you look at it, you're like, oh, this one makes sense. You legitimately, I don't think anybody can legitimately look at the Luka trade and be like, yes, this makes sense, unless there's something that they know in Dallas about him besides the fat joke. Like, unless they know something about him, like the injury that he had that is like majorly worse, and they were like, there's no way we can support that kind of thing. But even then,
he's supposed to make his debut Saturday now. Because the only reason I found that out is because they switched the
Suns game.
Yeah, the bump from ESPN. Now they're going to put LA and Indiana on ESPN, whatever.
Which is absolutely fine. They can have it.
You don't want the Suns in prime time like they are tonight?
No. They don't deserve it. No. It is nice though that now we can finally now that the Jimmy Butler trade has happened, now it's like, all right, the Suns can figure out what the hell they're going to do. I can't wait to see who they get because it's probably not.
KD's still not safe until what we say 2 p.m. Central tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
So as I had said,
his reactions to it.
Well, as I had said, potentially, and he was warming up today, right? Like tonight.
Yeah,
he was warming up.
One of the Thunder Beat reporters just showed like a little pregame video of him just shooting around or warm up. So,
oh well, who knows? But still, there's a chance that he may get traded or he could stay with Phoenix. Who knows?
Right.
Find out on next week's episode of the Sportsball Podcast.
We may or may not be here.
Do you know something we don't?
We're all getting traded.
Oh. Hold up.
We're all getting. I'm going to become a Dallas Maverick.
Oof, tough.
Hey man, I hear they pay pretty good.
Tough one.
Now, I don't know if they're going to want a short white boy on their basketball team, but I'll try.
Yeah, they did try it once and just shipped him off to LA the other day. So
yeah,
I couldn't imagine. Like, I'm 5'9", I think. I don't know. I haven't got my height for years, but I couldn't imagine trying to go to shoot a basketball and all the guys are this much taller than me. And you can't see my hand on video because they'd be that much taller than me.
Like when?
Like what is LeBron? He's like 6'8". And then you got Wemby at 7'1" or something. It's like, bro,
Wemby's
I have
7'4",
zero chance.
homie.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, after 7 foot,
if you really think about it, there should be
after
a height
7
limit.
After 7 foot, you're just cheating anyway.
Well, yeah,
that's fair.
How tall was Yao Ming?
Well, at least that.
Tall enough.
I want to say he was like 7.
Tall and good.
That's a name I haven't heard for a long time. 7 foot 6 inches.
When you guys think of Tracy McGrady, do you think of him more of a Rocket or a Magic? I go back and forth.
Rocket.
I could see the argument for Magic, but definitely as a Rocket because that's when I started getting into that time period is when I started getting into basketball.
I don't actually know if he played with Yao Ming. Just for some reason
he did.
For that random memory.
I think it was only for a few years. I specifically remember Tracy McGrady as a Rocket though because I think it was NBA Live '07 that had him as the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, to me, that's an easy answer, but
It's like asking, do you think of MJ more as a bull or a wizard?
Oh,
I think of I was gonna say I think of him as a baseball player. Michael Jordan, the famed
White
baseball player.
Sox.
Another one you can throw in there as an example is, do you think? And I feel like this one's easy just because of how long he played there. But do you think of Steve Nash more as a Dallas Maverick or a Phoenix Sun?
Yeah,
He did play for the Mavs for a few years.
What about old Dwight Howard
Magic.
Retired.
or Lakers?
Or like, or during, I mean, he did win that championship with Alex. I will give him that. He is technically an NBA
Wasn't
champion.
Dwight Howard like old as hell too at that point? Still, I mean,
he was like third rotation center.
You know,
when
I shouldn't
AD
say
needed a break.
I shouldn't say that he was old. By definition, since then he's gotten older. So
Well, he was still old at that point.
Dwight Howard.
he was still old at that point.
He's probably like 28 at that time.
I mean, probably.
I don't know. Admittedly, I don't follow basketball as closely, so I only have specific memories.
But that's
I think
for
we've
trade
drained
talk.
Yeah.
We trade the drain talk. You know, with that, Nathan, do you have any Wolves back updates?
The Wolves on seriousness is back. If that counts.
That's just extra words in between Wolves and back.
You know what? You bring up a good point. They are officially back and up by 2 points against the Bulls, who just traded everyone they have away. So
And signed
Probably
Lonzo
going
Ball.
you know, maybe he's playing inspired tonight as a result. I don't know.
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do anything at the trade deadline. They've had a bunch of injuries. Turns out Julius might be more helpful to the offense than
But he's not.
they
hurt.
won't admit. Yeah. I don't know. I'd be curious to see what happens this offseason with them, because it'd be interesting if there's a world where they could keep Nas and Julius, because Nikhil's been just brutal the past like month and a half, and ideally you get Dante back soon or into next year. Rob's playing some really big minutes. He's just a microwave scorer. Jalen Clark's been coming in. He's not really a scorer, but he's a solid defensive wing. So I mean, that'd be interesting to have Nas, Rudy, Julius, and maybe even have Jaden McDaniels working into kind of that power forward position for your bigs. And I think it'd be fun. It just gets a little weird with kind of your point guard. You'd probably have to rely on a combination of Ant and Point Julius distributing the ball, which is always questionable to give Ant even more responsibility on top of everything he already has to do. So,
but he'll do it.
He can. I mean, kind of like we've been talking before. It's a lot of his is just effort. The talent's there. Like he, I think, has made the most 3-pointers in the NBA so far this year. And I mean, he's shooting north of 40% from 3, which
pretty good
stuff that's like Steph does. So, and he's still 23, so he's 2 years behind Luka and like 4 years behind Shea. So this kid's got time to grow. If he leans into it, and he seems. I know last week he had some comments. I think after the Atlanta game, where he's just he trusts his coaches to put him in the position to make him better, and so I don't know. We'll see. This year's kind of a wash. I think if they can make a nice run after the All-Star break, we'll see what happens. There's a world where they could pull like probably. I don't think it'd be quite as far as making the finals like Dallas, but there's a world where they have a nice little hot streak and they pull it all together at the end of the season. But for now, still very weird and unserious. So
yeah, not much happening from the Thunder side. I mean, they're doing what they do, and they just keep rolling. game after game after game.
They're like leading the NBA, but not much happening. Okay.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the Thunder trades for the swap for a second-round pick and then for Daniel Tice.
Yes, they
League-breaking trades, I might add.
I think it was yesterday. They swapped second round picks with the Nuggets for a 2029 and a 2020 or 2030 second round draft pick swap. So yay for that.
As expected.
And then Daniel Tice, I think is how you say his last name. Traded for him, kind of just like an insurance policy backup center. Just the unknown with how quickly Chet's going to come back. Coming up on the All-Star break, so hopefully fairly soon. But even then, he's not going to be 100% ready to go by the time he gets back. With not playing basketball since November. Little conditioning thing that they call that, unless you're Luka, which doesn't exist then.
Hey, as long as Chet didn't balloon to like 260 or something.
From what I've seen,
weeks
he's still very scrawny from the practice videos that I've seen.
Cosplaying.
So you're
as Dracula.
saying not quite like Luka.
No,
That's the exact opposite of Luka.
Yeah.
Is if you're using Dracula. Just polar
So,
opposites here.
that would be my guess is what the Thunder only do unless somebody approaches them with lucrative draft picks here within the next less than 24 hours. But yeah, just an insurance policy. Like I had texted you guys earlier, when the games that Isaiah gets hurt or is out for a couple games, they can win with small ball, but it's not ideal. And especially come playoff time, if Chet or Isaiah, one of them, are out for one of the games, it's just nice to have a backup center so you're not playing them 40 plus minutes in a grueling NBA playoff series. So
especially if you're going up against the Dallas that has AD, Gafford, Washington, and Lively.
PJ, I hate PJ Washington so much. He's doing the exact same thing that Aaron Gordon does to Nate's team and I every time we play them. It's PJ Washington will go games with like scoring 10 points, 9 points, 8 points, and then he'll play the Thunder, and then he'll go off for 34 and a triple double.
7 for 7 from 3.
Yeah, and Dallas or OKC only went 1-2 against Dallas this year. It's because PJ Washington went off in those two games that the Thunder played them.
So are the Thunder like the Nebraska Cornhusker basketball team? Some are saying.
Just only when they play Dallas, though.
That's what I mean. Sorry, I need to specify. Only when they play Dallas, because obviously the one thing, Nebraska may be turning it around, but the one thing that the Thunder have been doing that that the Huskers can't seem to do very well is win.
Yeah, and Dallas has two of the. Dallas and Golden State have given the Thunder 4 of their 9 losses this year. So, and obviously the Warriors now have added one extra piece for the Thunder to contend with. So I don't think they play Golden State until like later in the season one last time. But not great if OKC's matched up with one of the first round games against either of those two teams. I want someone else to take them out first before the Thunder have to play them, because that just smells like first round upset going home type matchup for OKC if they beat either Dallas or Golden State there. So
could be fun.
Do not want. It would be fun probably for everybody else but me. But yeah, they're just like you said, top of the league, just kind of rolling along, mowing down teams left and right.
Must be rough.
I know. Must be. Dude, I felt so bad for Sacramento. I mean, they didn't have to do what they did to Sacramento, but they did. They tried. I think it was like 82-44 and half a couple nights ago against Sacramento, and that game ended up being 144-110.
Yep. And then the Timberwolves lost by 2 like 2 days later to the Kings.
Yeah. So if that kind of tells you there might be a little bit of a gap difference between the Thunder and the rest of rest of the NBA between them. It shows a little bit. My gambling tip to you is if you ever see a golden or a Thunder line that's -10 or above in favor of the Thunder, just hammer it because they're probably going to win by that plus more at this point.
In the NBA, that is a wild, like that's just wild too. Like it's kind of like the NFL where if you have a touchdown or more as the spread, you're like
right
you start
now, Zach,
questioning it.
the Thunder are a 13.5 point favorite.
Over the Suns?
Yeah,
Nah,
tonight.
that tracks. That tracks. Hammer that.
I mean, KD being out probably does play a big factor in that too.
Well, also the Suns suck. So
Well, KD at least adds a little bit of value.
I still maintain what I've said this whole season so far is that they don't so much suck. It's just it doesn't seem like they can figure out what's going to work. Like
Right.
they'll have a couple games where it's like they try a couple different rotations and it works fine. But then then it doesn't. So they're like, well, we got to go back to the drawing board. It's like, okay, maybe don't do that, but I don't know. Like I don't coach basketball.
Right.
In case you guys didn't know that.
Oh, we know that now.
What? News to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
Weird.
Well, you will be when we buy the Jazz, and
It's true.
then you will coach basketball.
No, I'll just own a basketball team. I ain't gonna get anywhere near the coaching.
Oh, you're
We're gonna have
coaching.
Twitch do
Yeah,
it.
we'll get like once a month coaching privileges. That'll be in the contract.
Hey, all my
Hope
coaching
so.
is going to
That'd
be
awesome.
shoot the ball well, score more than the other team. Go team.
That'd be.
It's a really good game plan, let me tell you. I'll see if I can remember like the.
I'd be
the
nervous as
plays.
hell. I'll be like, Shay, you should probably go back in.
I can
don't
just
know how
tell you
these
right
rotations
now-
work.
I was going to say, I can tell you right now, they probably wouldn't respect us. But
Well,
if we own them,
That's
they'd
just
have to
because they
respect
probably
us, so-
haven't listened to the podcast yet.
Yeah. And
Well,
you're
they
telling
are-
me. Well, first off, like, who would we trade for? I don't even know who's on the Jazz. It's even worth keeping.
Lowry Markkanen and Keontae George. John Collins is still there for some reason.
We could probably get Luka.
Yeah, for a gum wrapper.
Yeah. They got
Hey,
a
we'll
Kyle
trade you the entire
Filipowski,
team.
Walker
Yeah.
Kessler, I think, is
We'll
there.
give Luka that supermax contract.
Yeah. Although we
It'll be
can't
the-
until he's a 10-year vet now because you have to be the team that drafted him to do that. So
Well, we can try to give him the max of whatever he deserves.
Dallas kind of screwed him with respect to that.
What? Dallas franchises screwing their players? No way.
What are the odds that like Jerry Jones just like hacked into Nico Collins' email and was like, "Ooh, this sounds like a good trade." Did it for him.
Yeah. It's like what I told you guys the other day as somebody simulated that trade in 2K25 and the game came back and said, no, this is unfair. We're not going to do this.
Oh.
So
When
even the
even
video
the-
game knows that it's bad.
Yeah, when even the video game logic says absolutely not. It is interesting.
Although,
you know,
to be fair, 2K has been a pretty bad video game for a while.
Yeah.
okay, fair enough. But
It's got a lot more
I
common
was-
sense than Nico.
I had wondered like because this is such a lopsided trade. Like I feel and people were speculating online that apparently this could lead to like investigation. I'm like, into what? Stupidity? But like I wondered
Yeah.
that. I was like,
Right.
is this for real? Like people are like, well, there could be tampering. I'm like, I feel like at this point though, no like who would have tampered? Because like I feel like if they got on the phone, the Lakers were probably just like, wait, you're serious? Yeah, we'll do that. Like
Well, hang up. We're drafting it right away. You can't. No takings backs is here.
right, like the famous video of like the Vikings like office when they were drafting and the Eagles took Jalen Reagor instead of Justin Jefferson, and they're all laughing. Same exact thing. Same thing.
Extremely funny.
Mobby.
And I mean, even as an Eagles fan, you look back at that and I'm like, okay, that was pretty stupid. But it was kind
Yeah.
of funny watching that video. I don't know.
Extremely funny.
Yeah, leave it to the Dallas Mavericks to just
I
mess
will
everything
say,
up.
as dumb as the trade is, I am intrigued to see like Kyrie and AD like a lively, and I still think Klay Thompson will watch, but like PJ Washington out there shooting threes. I like short term, like next 1-2 year window here could be
Yeah.
interesting, but like long term that still just insane. But there is intrigue there. We'll see how the rest of the season goes for him. But
Yeah.
like I said, they have like 80 centers, so that's going to be at least something you have to defend in some way.
Well, hopefully they rebound. Feel like maybe that's their game plan. Just rebound and hope for the best.
One would hope.
No,
Well, keeping on
given up.
the basketball track, I'm gonna let you guys. I've taken the liberty of doing what I've done with Nebraska basketball this year and just kind of been hands off because they've done. I can't tell if they've done well or not well with me not watching, but it's been consistent. So I'm just gonna keep it.
They've done.
They've done things.
Sure. Question mark. So I know last time that we talked. Yeah. I know last time that we talked, they were just about to play USC, and I said this is like an absolute must-win, get-right game. Then they lost, and then they went to Wisconsin, and then got boat raced. And then I was like, I didn't even watch the Wisconsin game. I just checked at halftime, and I said nope. And then the final score came across, and I said,
can't make me.
Yep, I can't make me. That's why I didn't watch. And then the Illinois game came around on Thursday, and I go, I am a sucker for Husker sports. I'm going to give the first half a watch. The first half went well. And I'm like, all right, we're going to keep watching the rest of the game. And Nebraska kind of slowly gave the game back to Illinois, which, not a surprise. It's a ranked team in Illinois. So you're like, yeah, it kind of makes sense that, they have the fortitude to get back into the game. And then Bryce Williams decided that, he was an alpha again, despite not remembering that the entire month of January. And went off and won the game in overtime, scoring, I think, like close to all the points in the overtime period. He had at least 8 points in overtime. So Nebraska got that upset at home. And then they went on the road to ranked Oregon this past Sunday. And, I was like, all right, after, it's kind of the theme this year is they get a big upset win and then they play like crap the next game. So I was kind of expecting that when they go on the road to Oregon. And so they pretty much handled Oregon the entire game Sunday. Oregon led for 46 seconds, and that was the first 46 seconds of the game. After that, Nebraska led that entire game, the rest of the 39 minutes. So, one, uber important that Nebraska got not only a Big Ten road win, but a Big Ten ranked road win. Easily is going to go a long ways for them. But, like, when I had texted you guys that they got the upset, Nate, your response is like, what in the hell are they doing?
I think it's a valid question.
Just, it's like that gif of the Sopranos, or I guess it came from The Godfather too. It's like every time I'm out, they pull me right back in. And that's exactly what has happened because I was out. I pleaded on the last episode, like, don't watch them, like, for the mojo sake, everybody, your mental health, do not watch this team.
And it worked.
They pull off wins like this, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm right back where I started.
It's the Morty meme.
In.
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
Yes. But the difference is, it's Bryce and Juwan have been playing like they were, in October and November and December. They had been playing like the veteran senior leaders that they are in the team, going up for double-digit rebounds, double-digit points every single game, and taking over the game when they need to. I just don't know where that was in the entire month of January, because all those games Nebraska lost on that losing streak. Bryce was not driving; he was giving up shots and passes to deferring to other people. And then these past two games against Illinois and Oregon, I mean, Bryce has been like, "No, I'm driving. I'm taking the shots. Get set screens from me. I'm taking the shots." And it's been working. So I don't know if, probably a lot of that is mental. I'm sure that Iowa game, like I keep referring back to, probably broke the will of the team for a little bit. And it just kind of sputtered out of control for a long time until they kind of righted the ship. Almost too long, but now all of a sudden, what we were talking about a couple weeks ago is may might not make the conference tournament to, oh, we're back in the NCAA bubble now. So it's been a whirlwind. I know at the time of this recording, they play Washington here in about an hour. Nice 9:30 Central Time tip. Again, this is one, a must-win game, but two, a should-win game because you're playing the worst team in the conference, literally at the bottom of the standings in Washington. So,
But you get to see our good friend Wilhelm Breidenbach tonight.
yeah, I'm scared kind of for the Breidenbach revenge game. Not gonna lie,
Goggle-eyed assassin.
Yeah, not not gonna lie, that sat in my stomach a little bit today. It's like, what if like he did it? And God, I'd be so pissed. So you'll find out next week how this game turned out. But it's weird. Like I said, that entire January stretch, don't know what happened to this team or Bryce or Juwan, and all of a sudden they found it. So as long as they keep playing like that, I mean, Nebraska, the slate gets a lot easier going forward. After this week, you get a couple more ranked games again, with Maryland and Michigan being back ranked in the polls. So a couple more ranked opportunities ahead of you, but they got more quad one games than, just Maryland or Michigan. Northwestern and Penn State, despite not being good, are still technically quad one games because they're road games. Ohio State at home is a quad one, and then Iowa at the end is still a quad one at home. So it's a lot to, make your resume still look better. I know the stat showed up the other day that the fourth ranked wins Nebraska has this year is tied most in program history. It's also the fourth tied in the conference between Purdue and UCLA for most ranked wins in the season in the conference. So, and as long as Maryland and Michigan kind of continue their winning, there's a couple more ranked opportunities there for Nebraska to pull up and maybe break the program record for most ranked wins in a season. So, a lot of opportunities left for this team going forward. They got to keep playing like they have the past two games, and they can't get into that spiral lull of what happened in January. Let them affect them, because obviously, as we saw, if one game goes out of control, it can have effect for the next 5 games. So, it might be hindsight 2020 when we get to the end of the season, as we'll look back at that stretch and you're like, what could have happened? What could have, maybe a potential higher seeding could have been in the tournament if they make the tournament, if they just, won those games that they should have won, like Rutgers and USC and Maryland. I know Maryland's ranked now, but I mean, they lost at 3 points on the road to Maryland, won a game that they probably should have won too. So, still not out of the neck of the woods yet. Still very much on the bubble talk, because a couple more losses, you're looking at needing to win the majority or run out the rest of the season. Just one to make it to the conference tournament, but then you probably got to steal more than a game or two in the conference tournament just to kind of boost your resume a little bit more. So, yeah, it's I'm still indifferent on whether I'm happy about being pulled back into caring about this team again, but
give it time, Andy. Give it time.
Give me till Selection Sunday whether I'm happy about it or not. At this rate,
that's fair.
But yeah, Nate, I know you probably didn't get to watch much of the Oregon game, but your thoughts about maybe Wilhelm Breidenbach.
Hey, I'm just excited to see that bright shining smile again. Yeah, kind of like I said last time, the opportunity's there for them to still, claw their way out of the hole. So the door isn't closed yet, but they're towing a fine line at the moment. So hopefully they can, take care of business against the team they should beat tonight, and maybe turn around a couple of those close losses like Maryland and stuff as they see them again. And yeah, we'll see. It's kind of like you said, it's probably going to ride through Bryce and Juwan. That's just kind of how it is. They're good team overall, but like the more the sum of the parts than the actual parts being incredible. So
and it goes back to, they found the defense again that they'd found the first, like you go back to the Creighton game even, or UCLA or Indiana. They finally found that defense again in these past 2 games. It's just, where did it go during that losing streak? But that's also been a big factor, is they finally have found the defense that has got them these upset wins earlier in the season. So that'll, again, I don't know what flipped the switch with that and everything, but
I could see where there was a mental thing, especially after the Iowa loss, where they just kind of let Iowa come back, and then they didn't really trust each other on the court for those few games after. And
when you're up 15 on the road,
middle of the season,
like 12
just
minutes
kind of
left.
a lull. Yeah.
That's kind of just that mental block kind of thing where
Mm-hmm.
you just have that no matter what. I feel like it's kind of like comparing the Nebraska teams of, a few years past where they would play really, really well for 3.5 quarters and then come to the fourth and you're just like, all of a sudden they were just like, oh my God, we don't know if we can actually win this. And that's when the doubt creeps in.
Right.
It seems at least like Nebraska basketball corrected course so far a lot quicker.
Yeah. They're still a little bit questionable of closing out Haas. I know, they were up 32 to like 17 the first half against Oregon, and I think that halftime they only went in with like a 5-point lead at half. So they're kind of end of half, going cold at the wrong moment. Still, it's kind of a big factor. I mean, I think it happened against Illinois too, but they just need to give Bryce the opportunity, just give him the ball, just like, you're the alpha, you're the baller, just go out and just do what you do. And he did that the past 2 games, and that's what got him those 2 wins. So you need that tonight, and you definitely need that on Sunday when Ohio State comes in to PBA. So Nebraska still, I mean, slotted as a 2 to 3 point favorite for that game right now, but Ohio State has been playing better recently than their record would indicate. So I mean, at this point, Nebraska can't really overlook or guarantee. I mean, even tonight, you can't overlook any team in the Big Ten right now. It's kind of like when you football, all these non-conference teams, go undefeated in the conference play, just eat you alive. I mean, Michigan State just lost to, I don't know who they played last night, but no, they played UCLA last night. Michigan State lost. Illinois is losing to Rutgers as we speak currently.
Indiana is just a funny team.
Indiana will pull off an upset whether they do what Nebraska does and be like, yeah, we're not playing basketball anymore. So it's kind of what the ebb and flow of the Big Ten conference is right now, and you're going to get that with 18 teams playing conference basketball against each other every year now. So you're going to have your 1 or 2 dominant teams that are going to be the top, like this year Purdue and Michigan State, but then you're going to have all these other teams that are, I mean, Wisconsin's good too, but then I think they just recently lost to, who did they lose to? Maryland, which now Maryland's ranked, but then, they've had a couple bad losses too. So it's any given night in the Big Ten. It's, hope Nebraska's not on the receiving end of that now. Hopefully they just got those losses out of the way and said, we're just going to get all of these bad losses out of the way now.
Guess we just have to win out the rest of the season.
Shucks.
Terrible.
Shucks. If you look at most of the bracket matrices predictions right now, you've got Nebraska at about a 19-20-ish range for projected record at the end of the season, which I said at the start of the season, it's kind of where you want to be when you go to the conference tournament time. And then you get a game or 2 in the conference tournament, just kind of get you that 20-21 total. You don't feel totally comfortable, especially if that might be right on the bubble line, but you feel better than most if you don't at least have 20 wins come Selection Sunday to kind of be off that bubble line. So, I mean, right now they're one of the last 4 teams in. So, assuming they keep racking up these wins and quad 1 wins, it's going to be even better. And if you look at the net rankings for the team, I mean, Nebraska's like 50th right now in terms of net. That might have jumped actually. No, they're 50th. But you look at there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's at least 6 or 7 teams above them all the way up to 40th that have no more than 3 quad 1 wins, and Nebraska's already sitting at 4. So, I know the selection committee is going to look at that heavily as, 1, how'd you do in your quad 1 wins, and 2, how'd you do on the road or at neutral sites. And Nebraska, the Hawaii tournament, it is what it is. But, you look at the neutral sites, those are big wins, and obviously the big road win against Oregon. So probably need another road win or 2 for sure, just to kind of solidify that resume more. But definitely looking a lot better than it was all of January. I'll say that for sure.
I was just gonna say, as it stands right now, they're 45th in Ken Pomeroy. So
Yeah, which is, if you take the overall 68 field, that's you're still sitting at that bubble range because technically you're in the 68 range, but you also think of all the automatic qualifiers that would be below 45 that kind of fill up that back half of that bracket. So generally, I think around the 40-ish or above range, you feel pretty good about being off the bubble in terms of net Ken Pom rankings. So yeah, it's you can't drop these should win games, especially like tonight, and going forward games that you're favored at, especially at home. Just can't drop them, and need to steal a road win or two before conference tournament time. I think at that point, then you feel pretty solid going into the tournament. So yeah, with that, Zach, you turn to. Do we want to talk about the superb owl, or we talk about quickly about Nebraska? Because the only thing notable happened with Mike Eckler. We finally
Mike Eckler got hired as a special teams coordinator.
We finally have a full
longer
coaching
under the
staff
reign
now.
of Ed Foley.
Yeah, Ed Foley, the bad man's gone.
Well, I don't think he's gone. He's just not the special teams coordinator anymore.
Yeah,
he's going through the runs of drive-through.
Nebraska finally has fulfilled all its coaching staff departures now, so now we have a full-time 2025 coaching staff going forward. On top of Matt Rule coming out, being the protagonist leader that he is, and saying we're going to cancel the spring game because of tampering. And at first I was like, why is there so much backlash to this, especially the national media? I mean, I think everybody locally, I don't know how you guys feel. I kind of figured it was coming sooner or later, just because the spring game, to me, besides the revenue factor for Nebraska, is you see the starters play a series or two, and then it's a bunch of backups. And the risk that you do with that is you hurt your starters. In it's kind of a controlled environment, but almost an uncontrolled, live scrimmage at the same point. And, you don't want to risk that in spring. And the reason Rule is canceling it and now citing it is, with the age of the portal, NIL, and everything, and tampering. He doesn't want other teams looking at their nationally televised spring game and be like, oh, let's go see if, we can go talk to, Corey Barney or somebody like that. See, like, hey, what value do you want to come to Miami or wherever you want to go? And the national media kind of got a lot of backlash on that. And then there were a couple of coaches that came out today. I think Lane Kiffin was also one of them. It said, like, yeah, we're not having a spring game because we don't want kids going to the portal after the spring game because another school offered them this much after seeing them in the spring game. So they still might do something in the spring in terms of a quote unquote event for the spring before transfer portal. But my guess
going player
forward,
day, you mean, or like
some sort of event for the fans to still kind of interact with the team. But I don't think it's going to be like a true scrimmage or game anymore, like it has been in years past. I think what I've heard and what they probably should go to is kind of how the NFL model does it right now, where you during OTAs, during like fall practices, at least for the NFL, like fans can pay to get tickets to go watch practices during the first couple of weeks of the NFL season before preseason starts. So my guess is they're probably going to do something like a fall preview of the team and have a NIL 1890 type event where it's maybe it's a scrimmage, maybe it's something like that, but you get to go see the team that might be of your starters come like August time, because you got to get your roster figured out and you're going to see like, oh, these are your for sure starters closer to that. So maybe, and who knows if that'll happen, but that would be my guess is what Nebraska might do, what college athletics will do going forward is something similar to the NFL where you pay to go see a practice or something like that. That way, Nebraska and the 1890 collective isn't missing out on, the revenue they would have made during the spring game type thing. Because Nebraska last year, I think, made close to $1 million, if not $1 million, just off the spring game. And that's, tickets, concessions, everything that goes on during a normal spring game. So I highly doubt the university. Yeah, I highly doubt, and especially most of that money is going to go
to the Patreon. But
no, well, yeah.
That totally exists if someone wants to find it.
Right. especially since most of that money is probably going to go right back into the 1890 pool of paying the players that they went out and got this spring. And we also got Rocco Spindler, I think is his name. Notre Dame
What a
transfer
name.
offensive. I know. Notre Dame offensive lineman transfer who started most of the games, if not all of the games last year for Notre Dame. So easily, barring something bad happening, probably going to be your first string starter this year on the offensive line. And then they got somebody else, but I don't remember. Too much just happened this offseason for Nebraska. But we're natty champs. That's all I know.
Off-season natty champs.
Off-season natty champs.
I was gonna say let's specify that before we have someone knocking down our doors. I don't have back to your original question. I think was
how we feel about the spring game.
Yeah, I don't really have like any reservations about getting rid of it because it makes total sense. I think I don't even know if I'd call this like a concern or like a con. I just remember like some players when they got here saying that for the last few spring games, they got that first sense of like walking out of the tunnel and getting used to kind of so many people being there. And like, I don't know, like it's not going to be any different than when it's actually full for a game. Whereas like, it's not quite as full all the time for spring games and whatnot, but still, I think that's the only thing I can think of that's like, nah, that'll kind of suck because then they won't get that like first time jitter out of the way. But then again, the first time jitter for your first home game is different than spring game. Although you'll at least have a feeling if you play in the spring game. But regardless, that's such a small nitpick thing. Like I don't even really count it. It's just I had to come up with something because that's what we do here. We do that hard hitting analysis on this podcast, boys.
That is what we're here for.
But
yeah, Nate,
that was my
off-season natty thoughts there.
Less natty type, but there was some minor news that a certain coach of the volleyball team is
that
changing.
Kind of didn't it?
The changing of the guard officially happened for Nebraska volleyball, which we should probably preface. We don't know anything else about many other volleyball programs. So if you're here for that, sorry, this is about Husker volleyball.
I only forgot about it just because I've talked about it so much the past 2 days with other people that I'm like,
it's actually not entirely true. Real quick, before you get
I kind of just figured that
we know something about we know something about Louisville's volleyball programs that they're also looking for a head coach now. Beside that, though, this is mostly Nebraska volleyball. So if you're not here for that, skip ahead.
Yes, and John Cook, deservedly so, deserves to retire. He same time length career as Mr. One, Dr. Tom Osborne, coach for Nebraska, the 25-year mark. I don't think any amount of gratitude and thanks that the fans can give him is going to be enough to what John Cook deserves. I mean, he gave so much more than probably the university deserves, than what Nebraska deserves. And he turned not only women's sports, but, volleyball from just caring only about themselves to literally, getting primetime games on ABC this past couple of years to making it all about getting women's volleyball on primetime national television, whether it's ABC, ESPN, so on and so forth. And, obviously you go back to the world record volleyball day at Memorial Stadium. I mean, that's, does that happen without John Cook? Probably not. It's tough to say that would happen with any other coach, but it doesn't happen without John Cook building such an elite program at such a high, demand at Nebraska that a lot of the things that Nebraska volleyball is right now does not happen with John Cook. And that's, what Nebraska football was with Tom Osborne. Is none of what Nebraska football has been doesn't happen without Tom Osborne or Bob Devaney.
You weren't supposed to say that out loud, Andy.
Well, we can say those quiet parts out loud.
Oh,
some other parts we can't.
But here's the thing. You can't say that because now you might put the onus of like the bad things happening to the volleyball program.
No,
the same way they happened with the football program.
And the only reason that's not going to happen is one, John Cook is handing over the program to someone as equally talented and great of a coach and Danny Boosbaum Kelly. And, the fact that the retirement announcement and the hiring announcement happened about 22 minutes apart. Very much tells us that this was very
Might have been a
coordinated.
plan in place.
might have been a plan in place.
It's funny
Jim
too, because
Luka.
I remember they announced that Jordan Larson was leaving, and in my head, I was like, I feel like she'd always be the one that would take over,
Right.
just because like
Mhm.
that's the big name that everybody personally, at least, remembers, just because she went on to do a whole bunch of stuff, and then she left, and then everybody's like, what the hell? Which but it
Right.
was for her pro career, so I was like, I guess that makes sense, because
Right.
if she's still good enough to play pro, why not?
Right.
Especially with pro volleyball now being this up and coming thing. But I was still like, what is going on? And then he announced his retirement. And then, like you said, 22 minutes later, that whole orchestration was incredible. I mean, Jordan Larson being kind of notwithstanding at that point, but
Right.
that like I was just like, what is going on? But it was awesome.
And Danny's got the resume of, she turned Louisville's volleyball program into nothing, into either back-to-back or 2 national championship appearances in 3 years. I mean, that's not something that, one, is easy to do, especially with how we've seen volleyball lately with, Wisconsin, Penn State, Pitt, obviously Louisville, Creighton, Kentucky, so on and so forth. I mean, all these teams that are powerhouse programs that are incredibly tough to beat year in, year out. That's no small feat. And now you get her experience and handing over the, Mercedes from John Cook just to giving it to Danny Boosman Kelly, and she's going to keep it in mint condition. I mean, I don't see any possibility that there could be a drop off. There might be some, but we haven't seen any players leave yet. You get that 30-day transfer window after a coach leaves to, transfer out. And so far, none of the girls that are on the current team have transferred out. So it just tells us that they trust Danny coming in. They trust John to know that he left them in great hands for the new head coach. And Jalen Reyes and Kelly Hunter, the assistant coaches that signed year extension contracts to stay on the staff. So also tells us that they're willing to stay and help Danny kind of get her feet and get her stamp on the program going forward for the girls. So
Also sounds like
it's-
John's sticking around too.
yeah,
Not like in the same
Mhm.
capacity, but he'll
No.
be around to help kind of do that transition, which is you can't really argue with that as
Right.
as an idea.
right. And you go back and you can watch his retirement press conference, and I definitely cried. Just listen to him get choked up about why he wanted to do it. And obviously we knew that him and Harper Murray's connection was probably going to be the hardest, especially when he had to tell her first that, like Harper was, I mean, John Cook was basically Harper's second dad. And, it's kind of a bond that you don't, it's hard to sever that tie of, I'm not going to be your coach anymore type thing, because I'm done retire, or like I'm going to retire. So, you can go back and watch it. It's if it doesn't make you cry, then you don't care about Nebraska volleyball or John Cook or anybody. No, you care somewhat, but it's a lot to take in. And like I'd said, John doesn't get enough credit and thank yous. There's not anything we fans can do can thank him as much for what he's done for us and what he's, that joke of Nebraska's always been a volleyball school. And, it's obviously not a joke. I mean, Nebraska is very clearly a volleyball school. And I don't see that changing anytime soon.
This is such a selfish thing, but I was hoping that we'd see like Matt Rule somewhere like in that like thing in this whole process to be like, yo, like
Right.
this guy's, I know like that's stupid, but because I'm sure he was like, this isn't about me. Like this is 100% for John. He needs to be his time, but still.
And it's, I mean, not even just volleyball, but you look at any collegiate sport, professional sport, it's so hard to retain a coach for 25 years that stays at your current program for that long. And it's, I mean, you look at Saban's probably one of them. God, I don't even know who else. I mean, technically Belichick, I don't know if he was quite 25 years, but just to have a long time tenured head coach in any collegiate professional experience it's hard to one, maintain that level of dominance that he did, and to do it as well as he did for that many years. So it's, looking back on it, hopefully, Husker fans haven't taken volleyball or John Cook for granted. It's going to be a fun transition. Like I said, Danny's definitely experienced. She knows what she's doing, and got a lot of returning talent next year. So it's just going to be, I think the girls going to be more motivated, just especially at what happened 2 years ago and what happened last year. They just keep getting there. They just can't get over that hump. So hopefully that adds the extra motivation, and be wild to win a natty first year head coach. So
that might be a bit of a high expectation, but I don't hate it.
Right one.
If anyone has the tools to do it, though,
yeah,
you got the roster, and she's got the pedigree clearly to take teams to.
Oh, that was the other. That actually was the other
like...
thing that I was gonna say was Harper Murray came out and had a whole long statement about it, and it was very well done. And I think she made it very clear she was sticking with Danny. So I'm like, yeah, great, because she played really well last year. All the other stuff kind of forget about that, but obviously she played well enough, and I think she's grown past that. But
right, and
Nebraska volleyball will continue to be fun to watch, I think.
Oh yeah, and even some of the recruits for, I think, the 2025 and 2026 class that came out and said yeah, John talked to us and said that he's retiring, and they said we're still committed to the program and to Danny. So that just tells you just how much respect they won, that these recruits that had very little time with John Cook respected John Cook and just respect the Nebraska volleyball program, and trust that, even though he's not going to be their coach when they get there, they trust that he's leaving the program in great hands going forward with Danny. So yeah, it's sad still that, we get to not watch the GOAT do what he does best anymore, but all good things have to come to an end at some point. But Nebraska volleyball does not have to come to an end, because Danny's just going to take it to her own heights and continue the elite excellence that John left the program in for her.
Honestly, she's, like you said, like you guys have both said already, she's obviously got a whole, she knows what she's doing. Louisville, not to say, I don't know the pedigree of Louisville's volleyball club, but obviously they must have, I don't know if they were necessarily good before, but she made them great. And so
they were
at a point of being,
they were okay before Danny got there. And then Danny,
there you go.
Like I said, the national championship appearances the past 3 seasons. So
I just hope that the girls obviously we won't have Lexi on the team next year, but I hope that the girls that stay and play for her, buy into the system and go kind of like they did going into last year, where they were we're going to be back, and they should have been back in the championship game, but that was another one. That was another game where, because they lost against Penn State, where it's I don't know, destiny at that point, just because Penn State won the entire thing, didn't they?
Yeah, going against the head coach with cancer. That's
I was there are certain
the storylines are written there for you.
Yeah, there are certain times, and I'm not even saying from an aspect of it being rigged. I'm saying that's the story that's that's the one that's bound to happen because it almost has to, kind of thing. And I don't know. I don't like Penn State, but whatever. There's far worse that it could have been, in my opinion. Texas.
Yeah, you're right.
I just realized by doing that we're probably going to get sued. So it's been fun doing the podcast with you guys. For those that are audio only listeners, I did the horns down. So
we'll be fine as long as someone finds the Patreon link.
Double horns down.
Well, we'll have to use some of that for legal fees. So if you guys could find that link, that'd be fantastic.
Great.
Well, do we want to move to
Superb Owl?
The Superb Owl.
I
texted somebody that the other day. I texted somebody that we were watching the Superb Owl, and they were they must not have realized that I said that. And they were like, I read that as Superb Owl, and I said that's what I said.
You're right.
I was and they're like, I don't get it, and I'm like,
there's no misspeak.
It's the fantastic owl. What do you mean?
Super
But for those that somehow have missed the news, the Kansas City Chiefs are once again going for the three-peat, and they are in for the AFC. But somehow, and I'm not saying this to like surprise, I legitimately am kind of surprised that they made it just because I didn't expect them to go all the way to get there. The Eagles made it, which is fantastic. So
it helps when you have that running back that runs for 2,000 yards and no one can stop him.
Correct. But I still maintain what I said like a month ago when the playoffs started or whatever at this point, where it's like, I still think it's kind of the Penn State and volleyball argument that I just said, where it's like, for whatever reason, Detroit just seemed destined to at least make it to the Super Bowl. Not necessarily win it, but they seemed like they were just on the destiny train. Like the city of Detroit needed this really good thing, and I think they still got it by getting as far as they did still. But it's like, then the Commanders derailed them, and then the Eagles completely demolished the Commanders. So it was like, it just was shocking to me that not necessarily that the Eagles made it, but like their path was harder than the last time when they got there, and they still did it. So
it helps.
I, for one, obviously am excited. So
it helps when the Commanders, instead of forcing 4 turnovers like they did against Detroit, instead do the 4 turnover parts themselves.
That's true.
If you watched any of Nebraska football game, circa 2023, you know that is not a recipe to win games at all.
No, you may be onto something there. I think though, so obviously the Super Bowl, Superb Owl, will happen. As of this recording, it'll be, the next episode will be after the Super Bowl. So, as of this recording, it's 4 days away, I think. But that is whatever. Like, I don't really have. I think it's two great, very evenly matched teams. I think the Eagles' defense is better,
yes,
than the offense for the Chiefs. So I think that's going to be where it comes down to, is if they can eliminate those big plays. I think the Eagles' defense will hold the Chiefs, but I think the Chiefs' defense is good enough by far to really hold the Eagles too. So I think it's going to be a close game.
Right.
Obviously, I'm going to pick the Eagles to win, but we'll get to that in our pick section, which I think at this point is probably just going to be the Super Bowl pick that we have. But
the giant meteor.
Yeah, it's what like the rest of the world wants, I guess.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted
a Philly or KC fan.
I wanted to bring up the Frankie Louvu play, which then led to if he kept doing the penalty, trying to stop the tush push.
Yeah,
the refs could just like they're rewarding.
Found out about.
And then it was funny too, because like I watched the press conference with Nick Sirianni afterwards, and he's like, actually, I did know that was a thing because at some point when he was with Indianapolis, I think, or no, with the Chargers, one of those two, he was like, he read that in like the rule book or something as he was just like going through things, and then either he read it or somebody had told him about it, and then they had to go back and forth to try to figure out who was right. And it was just like, and the worst part was we were watching it at the restaurant we were at. And so I couldn't hear it. They didn't have the volume up. So I was just like, I heard the ref talking for way longer than he normally does. So I was like, what did he just say? So I had to go onto the internet to find out that apparently the rest of the world was like, this is a thing that can happen. It was funny to watch though, watching him just
every time. He did try his best to time it up, but
I totally get it.
On any of it.
Like, obviously, as an Eagles fan, I'm biased. So, of course, I'm going to be like, well, I love that they can run the play because it's damn near unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, outside of what Louvu was doing for, like, at least creatively, he was trying to stop it at the snap.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate it. I thought it was funny, but, like, it wasn't, like, stupid. It looked dumb, but, like, you got to do something. So... The worst part was every time he did it, kept giving him first down. So they were just like, well, we're just going to keep making him jump. So
it kept working.
So I will stop talking. I'll let you guys go.
Well, I mean, this is your Super Bowl, Zach.
Yeah.
It is. But I found that I'm going to let it happen and we're going to see what happens. I will say this, though. If the Eagles win, every light pole in the country that for Eagles fans probably needs to be greased up.
Better be
immediately.
greased up.
Because if it's not, you're going to have some. Philadelphia is probably going to get burned down. And if they lose, it's probably going to get burned down.
Rightfully so. Yeah, obviously, my stance against one of these teams in this game. Do not care for, could care very less for. So
I thought
then
you
there's
liked
the
Eagles.
Chiefs.
And then there's the Chiefs.
Nate knows up. I see how you are.
From kind of a not biased point of view, if you're looking for like a matchup between two of the best teams, this was the only option. A Chiefs Commanders Super Bowl, the Chiefs would have won handedly. That as much it had been like the cool storyline of a rookie finally in the Super Bowl for the first time, an up and coming Commanders team. There's not a chance it would have stood a chance against Kansas City. The only like fun matchups would have been like Buffalo against Philly or Buffalo against the Commies. Just in terms of like, you don't know what's going to happen with those. But to your point there, Zach, yeah, I agree. And it's a two of, it's Mahomes versus the best defense in the league right now in Philly. That's I think going to be the biggest tilt factor is, can Philly stop Mahomes? And if they do, there's more than a likely chance that Philly wins the game. Because, unlike 2 years ago, it's, your Kansas City had a pretty easy game plan. It's, you're not facing Saquon. You're not selling out to stop Saquon, or you're just selling out to stop AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. Now Kansas City has kind of got to factor in, yes, go Birds.
Couldn't help it.
Kansas City has to factor in is, do we sell out to stop Saquon? Do you trust that Kansas City plays a lot of man-to-man with McDuffie and whoever their other cornerbacks are? Do you trust them to stop AJ Brown and Goddard and Devontae Smith? And by doing that, do you hope that Jalen Hurts makes a few mistakes, or do you have to maybe not sell out to stop Saquon? So if there's any defensive coordinator that knows how to do it well, it's going to be Spagnuolo. And we saw in that fourth down play against Josh Allen. That blitz was insane. Spags is kind of like Ryan Flores. They're freaks when it comes to blitzes. They know how to do it well.
Stone hands, though.
Yeah, they know how to do it, when to do it, when the exact time to call it.
Hold on, though. That's not entirely. It is true. Kincaid did have stone hands there, just like Mark Andrews did. However,
Mark Andrews' drop was a lot worse.
It was. Well, yes and no, because at certain angles, the Kincaid catch looked like it should have been there.
Kincaid should have taught it too, but like in terms of easier passes to catch, the Mark Andrews flat, wide open route probably should have been the one that was caught.
I would agree.
Josh Allen still got the ball there, though.
Yeah, Josh Allen scrambling the minute he catches the ball.
However, thank you for that phrase, Nate. Josh Allen got the ball there. You can argue that on a specific 4th and 1, he also got the ball there, but yet it was a turnover on down.
Or you mean the 3rd and 1 where Kincaid did get it?
Or that. My point is, and it's crazy because this argument's been brought up for since that game ended, is that if tennis has the technology to be like, nope, it was either on the line or out of the line, and can tell you exactly, if it's in or out on the court, then I think you could put a chip in the football and help
even VAR in soccer.
No.
I don't know, guys. I think we have this crazy thing called technology where we could help, where if the refs, especially the ref that called it down, who Josh Allen has the ball right here,
again,
the ref is that way.
One ref called him short, one ref called him first down. So
I think you're massively underestimating the purpose of technology. It's supposed to make our lives worse, Zach.
Well, you might be onto something. All I'm saying.
That's what that is.
All I'm saying is that there exists a world where he probably got the first down and everybody else saw it. And now, granted, that did not guarantee that they would have won the game, but they were driving well enough that a fresh set of first downs, they probably would have scored.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, all that, I get that. But when you shoehorn in a turnover on downs like that, yeah, it's gonna change the momentum of the game. So
Right.
weird.
So it's honestly the best matchup in terms of the top two teams you could have asked for, and of who was the best in the NFL, and that's what this game is all about. Like I said, it's going to be up to, can Philly's defense stop Mahomes? It's plain and simple. It's Mahomes has been there, done that multiple times. They're not any stranger to it. Andy Reid finally figured out his clock management issues after he left Philly, so he knows how to win. Yeah, how unfortunate is right.
Unfortunately, it still seems like Nick is trying to figure that out too, which I don't know. Clock management must be a very complex science.
Yeah, that's what I think it's going to come down to. Now, obviously, Kansas City defense is still really good too. Don't get me wrong on that, but I give the edge to Philly on that side of the ball just because you have the Saquon factor in now that wasn't there 2 years ago, which it makes a huge difference. It's Saquon Barkley, and he's had a breakout MVP type year, and we saw it against the Commanders, we saw it against the Rams. It's just he gets any sort of a crease and you kiss it goodbye. I mean, you're not catching him. he makes like bounce off runs just look so easy because he just bounces off and he's like, oh, can't catch me. And then he goes,
I think an underrated part of the Eagles offense too. Two of them, I guess. I mean, the offensive line has been stellar all year, obviously.
Yeah.
You can't.
And even this last game where Cam Jurgens didn't play the first half because of injury. I mean, your backup center didn't have any, sort of ailment or didn't look like he hadn't played all year. I mean,
I was going to say that was Landon Dickerson, and he ended up getting injured and then continued. They like him and then Cam continued to swap on and off. And those two are the ones I was going to comment on because like Cam Jurgens took over for Jason Kelce, who many have argued is one of the greatest centers of all time. And
future Hall of Famer,
Hall of Famer for sure. And like he's taken over that role well, like absolutely well. And like the one play that I think it was in the last Commanders, not the playoff game. I think it was the one before where someone on the edge missed a block, and he as the center had like taken 2 or 3 steps. I know we talked about it, but like that play alone sold me. I was like, okay, he knows what he's doing. So for all the crap that he got from Nebraska fans, understandably having problems with snapping, he's clearly gotten it figured out. But again, when you have one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL as well.
So you're saying there's still hope for Bryce Benhart?
If he goes to the Eagles. Honestly, yeah, if he goes to the Eagles. Like, obviously I'm biased, but like Jeff Stoutland is like premier O-line guy. So
right.
And also he's the running game coordinator, I think, too. So obviously he knows his stuff. Of course, it also turns out having Saquon Barkley is kind of a pretty good deal in that case.
That helps a little bit.
Yeah.
Nah, I think the Giants were right. Barkley's washed.
Oh.
You know what's crazy?
How's that working out for the Giants?
Right?
Pretty good, I think, right?
They wanted a better draft pick than
So technically,
yes, it didn't work out for them.
Depends on who they get. Hold on now. It's still the Giants. They are the ones that gave up Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, that's double-edged sword there. Draft pick, maybe up a generational talent.
God, that's Jeff Sims music.
That might be.
Is that the Amigos theme song? Does Amigos have a theme song? I don't know. I feel like they've got something for commercials. I don't know. Honestly, outside of, I guess, did we have any more Super Bowl takes? Because there was really only one other thing that happened in the NFL that I was like, that was noteworthy recently.
No, I mean, it's despite my hatred for the AFC team, it still should be a good game, regardless of how much I don't want it to win. But
my only take is that on paper, Philadelphia should be like one of the two teams, like the Ravens, that have like the offense and defense to compete and pull off a win against Kansas City. However,
Yeah.
you're competing against Voodoo Magic, so that kind of throws everything out the window.
That
I could
automatically puts 10 points in favor of the Chiefs.
Yeah, I could see this game 100. Well, two things. As long as the field isn't as bad as the last time when they played in Arizona, because
Well, they're in
every
a dome,
single
so I
player's
hope
been-
not.
No. But like when they did it in Arizona, for the last Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl, like there were the reports from the players was that it was like overwatered and like super slippery and muddy. So as long as it's not like that,
I think that's a turf field, anyways.
I think we can
Right,
all
so
agree
why
that
was it
they should
watered?
have a snow game.
Well, I meant like I think the Superdome's a turf field.
Yeah,
Arizona is
but-
because they have a retractable roof, but the dome famously not retractable.
right. So I mean, but that as long as they don't have that issue, then I think it's gonna because not only like it'll just be a good game. I think that's legitimately like the whole deal is like it'll be a really good game. But
Yeah.
I think this is one of those games that comes down to a weird like special teams play. Not even necessarily
And
a
that's-
snafu. It's
That's
just
the
like
part that does not favor the Eagles.
it depends because they've had some that they really do well on, and there's some others where they just have head scratching things. But you're correct, is the Chiefs continue their voodoo magic with their special teams on things that should
that's-
definitely not be like a great special teams play. It becomes one for them.
And that's the only advantage I give to Kansas City. Not because, I'm not cheering for Butker, obviously, but like I said, I've seen it happen. I mean,
He's
it
been
happened against
automatic.
Denver. Yeah, it happened against Denver. A blocked field goal here and there. Their punter, I think Matt Ariza is their punter, fairly good punter in the NFL. So, and as long as you don't have McCole Hardman returning punts, which I think they do anyways, but that's the only thing is I think the kicking game favors Kansas City, and that's just because as much as we don't like Butker, he's pretty much automatic. And Jake Elliott here and there. Jake Elliott,
He's
has not
missed
been-
some.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's 100% fair. But, I mean, he's been
good, but
auto-
like he's missed like some extra points, and you're like, how?
The extra points are what kill me because then he'll go like the next
And
drive
they'll
or
nail a
two
50
and then make
yarder.
like a 50-yarder. And it's like, that's harder. How are you missing the extra point? Now, I never did go back and watch anything further. Maybe it wasn't him. I don't know. And then, of course, like the big snow game leading up or with the Rams, like, I don't know. You can't really count that one because some of those, I mean, he made those kicks like kicking in the snow is hard. Who knew? Right. So,
Who
No.
knew?
but really, the only other news that I thought was noteworthy to bring up was that Myles Garrett finally deciding that he wants out of Cleveland.
Maybe a little late, but
I feel like this should have happened like 2 years ago.
maybe
The only
shoulda,
like
coulda, woulda.
I don't know, ifs and buts, candy nuts, and all that. But like, I don't know. Like, I get it, but like, why didn't this happen earlier, bro?
Right.
Like, what are you doing?
I'll be interested to see what team wants to pay that much for him.
If Cleveland even actually gives him up,
he's still
because
very,
they've said
he's still
that-
very good. It's not like he's out of his prime, but I mean that's going to be a big contract and probably an extension that a team with cap space is going to want to take on.
it's probably going to be somebody shitty like the Raiders.
I mean, the
No,
Vikings do have cap space.
You already have Max Crosby. I don't want.
It's probably going to be the freaking Chiefs.
The Vikings do have cap space.
You know what would be scary is if the Vikings take him and then Brian Flores doesn't leave.
Right?
Yeah.
He hasn't
That's what I'm saying.
he's officially with them still, right?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
That could be dangerous. Although Myles Garrett's an edge guy, right?
Yeah.
Pretty sure
Mhm.
regardless, that's what he's trying to do is rush the quarterback. So that's in their name is edge rusher. So regardless, it doesn't really matter if he's under Brian Flores or not. I think in
Right.
this case,
Be pretty useful though
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
a guy that blitzes on like 45% of his plays.
Yes.
yeah, right. Like I think there could be an argument made there. Do they have a cap space? Is that That was what I was trying to say.
I don't know, but I know they do have a very good cap situation. I don't know exactly if they fit into that, but I know they're one of the better cap situations in the NFL this year. 'Cause now they're not paying Kirk Cousins all of his Pizza Ranch and Cole's money. So
It's
See,
neither.
I guess that was the other thing. There was a report that I guess someone asked Kirk Cousins. He made a comment that he's not sure what his future is after, like, the Falcons when they finally started Penix. So it's like,
Probably not great.
so whoever takes on Kirk Cousins now, he's either going to have to take a major pay cut or they're going to get a huge dead money hit.
It's gonna be
wherever he
it's gonna
goes.
be like a Russell situation.
Mhm.
It's gonna have to be the Falcons. If they want to get rid of Kirk Cousins, the Falcons might have to eat a large portion of that contract for somebody to take him.
Yep.
And then a team that just needs a veteran backup could pay like what the Steelers did, just pay him like $1 million or $2 million just to be the starter or be a bench player, where you don't have to pay him that whatever he's owed.
You know, there was a comment that who was it? Somebody on the Giants made where I don't remember who it was, but they
We
said
want
something.
Daniel Jones back.
No, kind of, but
Can't
no.
have him.
They said if they draft a quarterback if they draft a rookie quarterback, that they'd like a veteran. And there is a weird thing where like Kirk Cousins could go to the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
It would be
It was
weird.
like a stupid thing that the Giants would do.
Yeah.
That's the only thing is
Right
I
up
don't
their
know
alley.
I don't know what their cap looks like, but also depends on what they're gonna do. I feel like they're nowhere where they need they should be getting a quarterback. I think they need to be focusing on that offensive line. But,
Yeah, maybe.
Nah.
But I don't know.
Why would you do that when you could get the least mobile quarterback in the league who just tore his Achilles a season ago to be your starter and not protect him?
Well, hold on. all I can think of here is that Family Guy quote. The hold on, a boat's a boat, but the mystery box could be anything. It could be a boat. That's all I'm thinking of right now. Hold on, a rookie quarterback could be like the next best thing, but Kirk Cousins could be just as good as a rookie quarterback.
Yeah. Never know till you try.
Also,
admittedly,
the
though.
Rams are shopping Cooper Kupp too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, whoever wants to take on a $20 million aging wide receiver, be my guest.
I think that whole announcement was only made funny, quote unquote, by the fact that Cooper Kupp came out and says, I planned on staying in LA until I was finished, but I guess not. It's like, oh, apparently they just showed up and they're like, here, you're being evicted. Like, wow.
I mean, some team will
in
sign
my-
him. It'll
in
be
my
just
head-
who wants to do it.
In my head, I feel like it was actually Sean McVay just texting him like, yo, dog, it's not you, it's me. And like,
Yeah.
just saying like, we need to let you go.
So-
Oh man, that'd be funny. We got anything else?
No, pick time, I think.
All right. Well,
Since we didn't do it last time.
I mean, legitimately, I've just got one. So
Does it go Birds?
it's go Birds. I'd say go Birds by 90, but I should probably keep it realistic. Honestly, I'm not even going to look at the line because I think last time I checked, it was like Kansas City 1.5 or something like that.
Yeah, I say it's definitely within like 3
It's-
points.
It's
Barely
almost
that.
a push. In my opinion, I'm taking the Eagles to win. It doesn't I'm not even going with a point spread. I'm just saying they're going to win it.
Yeah, I won't do that exact pick, but if I did, that is my pick is Eagles plus whatever. So and
Fine,
then,
I'll look it up.
I'll take the basketball tonight. I think
Dangerous.
they're minus. Yeah, it is because they're only only a 1.5 favorite. But yeah, I'll do that, and then I'll do one more weekend one just for funsies, because it's hard because basketball and hockey are the same thing. Is they don't really put out lines until like the day before the game, so it's really hard.
It is still a 1.5 line. So Kansas City's favored by 1.5. Eagles are
Eagles
dogs.
plus whatever the Eagles are,
That a boy.
and then minus Nebraska. There we go. We'll say plus Nebraska. I think the only way that would happen is if Bryce and Juwan would be out at the same time.
How what was I going to ask? How far are Nebraska favored against Washington? Which by the time this comes out, it won't matter, but
no, 1.5.
Gotcha.
Same thing. Again, dangerous.
That's not great for basketball.
Not with that attitude. Oh, come on.
I guess I will go. Luka wins in his debut with the Lakers.
Yeah. It's not a spread. That's just a.
Yep, it's a fact.
Just a fact.
To be fair, his pick was just that Luka wins. So I'm taking that as Luka has to make the game-winning shot.
No, that is not the bet that I am endorsing.
Sponsored by FanDuel. Not actually sponsored. Please don't sue us.
But please sponsor us soon.
But also go bet unless you're a player in the league. Then maybe, but just do it quietly.
But
do it
please
through
sponsor
your agent.
Do it through your burner account.
Oh, that too. That's even better.
Then my other pick, we'll go a little weird on it.
Oh, I like weird.
I'm gonna watching absolutely zero of it so far. I am going to say North Dakota wins the series against Colorado College this weekend.
Old hockey.
Yes.
I should start betting on UNO games. They don't lose.
Well, as long as you do that and not Lancer games, you're doing good. Lancers are bad.
Both UNO hockey and basketball are doing really well this year.
Hey, that's because UNO basketball is giving away popcorn by the 5-gallon garbage can.
Which
could you imagine?
Which is a
They did do
fantastic
it.
promotion.
No, I just could
oh.
you imagine just all of us going getting one each? Just be like
5-gallon worth of popcorn at once.
Sign me
hell
up. Theo will be eating good for a good day.
It was really funny that the Sickos Committee basketball representative was at that game too.
Yep.
So getting a little Omaha love from a national Sickos Committee.
Somehow, none of that surprises me. Like that whole phrase, none of that surprised me.
I mean, it's already a sicko in a sense that it's the Summit League that you're going to a game with, a game for, anyways. But yeah, that's Zach. Good luck with the Birds.
Hell yeah,
we believe in you.
We do.
Unless you lose, then we don't. But, up until that happens,
we're tying you up to one of those grease poles.
Yeah.
That won't work. I'll just slide down. And also, you make it sound like I don't want that. Like I'd love a bunch of people just climbing over top of me to get on a pole.
Interesting.
I am now intrigued.
Just saying. Hey, don't kink shame.
You're right. We don't shame on this podcast.
We don't kink shame.
Nope.
We do other shames, but not kink shame.
Yes.
Not kink shames.
Most of the shames come from my terrible picks.
No,
but I'm sticking with them.
Hasn't been one yet.
Yeah, Zach.
Right. Right.
Don't fact check us.
Don't fact check us. Don't go back and listen to old episodes.
But do.
Right.
But do if
who
you
knows?
really want to fact check us, maybe.
Who knows? Maybe there's a hidden Patreon link in one of them.
But don't. But please let there be a hidden Patreon link there. We need it.
Zach's
honestly, guys.
Zach's starting to look like Chet over there.
Oh.
You know, I did say for the new year I wanted to lose a little bit of weight. I just didn't think it'd have to be by force. But on the good side of things, with like hanging out with the trash pandas and getting food out of the garbage cans, I've named them all, and so I know them all. Chet is actually the name of one of them. Not any relation to the basketball player. In fact, definitely not any.
Not even like second cousin. Or?
No, well, I don't know that far. Could be, but this raccoon that I know, fatty, like absolutely not related to the basketball player at all.
Maybe he's stealing Chet's food. That could be
Oh,
it.
it could be. Maybe that's why Chet is so skinny.
Could be.
And
Somehow,
not just because he's tall.
the picture of a basketball player getting his food stolen by a raccoon might just be the funniest thing I've thought of today.
Big gold.
Like that would be hilarious.
That would be gold.
Chet, why have you lost so much weight? Well, the damn raccoon keeps stealing my food. Did you talk to somebody about it? I just did. Nobody is aware that this is happening. He's just sitting there. It's like, damn it. Why does this keep happening to me? All right, boys. Well, with that,
Yeah.
I suppose we can sign off here. I've been Zach with my boys, Andy and Nate. We've been the Sportsball Podcast. Once again, your number one source for sports. Number one source for sports, number one podcast in the world. Don't fact check us and don't correct me if I was wrong there because I don't care. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week.